Hey you guys, what is going on? It's Platinum Equinox finally bringing you a good chunk of the Jump GIGA 2017 interview between Tite Kubo and Yusui Matsui. This interview has actually dragged out for a long time. Some of the translations are out, and I'm going to go over the questions and answers for you guys as we speak. So let's get right into it without any hesitation. This is part one. Please do not expect anything major from this interview, but at the same time, try to keep your fingers crossed. We're going to get into this right now. Okay, so here it says, Kubo's response to a question about his creative process and mentions of his health taken from 2 pages of the Jump GIGA 2017 Volume 2. So this is part one, guys, between Kubo and Matsui. So let's get into it. Creative process secrets. Questions and answers special. 2 mangaka are gathered here. They have created works that are great hits, shining brightly through the history of Jump. A passionate talk unfolds, extending over 2 hours. Yes, guys, this interview went for 2 hours, and this is only part one, I believe. Be sure to look out for, part 2 whenever it is translated. I'm going to continue here. There is a difference between the things you want to draw and the things you can draw. The creator should draw the things they can draw. That's what I've heard. But what do the 2 senseis think about the statement? That is the question from pen name Red Pencil San. Matsui. First of all, I think Kubo sensei is probably the opposite. You draw the things you want to draw, right? Kubo then says, that's right, because I think that the things I want to draw is something I can draw. Matsui then says, I thought so. Kubo replies, if I like it, I will try to draw it. Matsui then says, in my case, it is the opposite. There is no choice but to like the things I draw. As a prerequisite, there is this idea that the readers will not approve of something I can't even draw. Ah, I see. Matsui then says, through the course of trial and error, when the readers have said, that was interesting, wasn't it, about certain things, it is those things that is what I want to draw. If they do not approve of it, I will then try to intensively focus on that next time. And whilst in the process of driving my pen forward, I think it will gradually grow into something that I want to draw. It revolves around the recipients at first, like in a debate over whether the chicken came first or the egg. I think it is not a matter of right or wrong. Conversely, Kubo sensei's standpoint is drawing what he would like to draw rather than what he can draw. Does this mean it is like an extension of sensei's hobby? Kubo, that's true, absolutely. Matsui then says, Kubo sensei once said somewhere, no matter how I express it, if something comes to mind and I don't let it out, I will feel unsatisfied. Isn't that right? That left quite an impression on me. Kubo then says, that's right. If I don't draw it, I will start to feel sick when it doesn't take form. You don't want to leave ideas idle in your mind, isn't it? Kubo then says, that's correct. So I will draw it right away and then place it next to me. But it doesn't necessarily mean you want to make it into a piece of work. Kubo then replies, yes, that's right, because I was drawing Bleach all this time, there were many ideas I couldn't use right away. I would compose a storyboard or something. It repeatedly gets lost somewhere. What? What a waste! Kubo then says, I don't know where they went. Matsui then says, I really want to read them, because it was drawn before the series, isn't that right? Kubo then says, right, but I didn't store them sometimes I didn't know what notes I discarded. Therefore, it's such a waste. Matsui then says, what did you write your notes on? Kubo then says, it was on copy paper. It is on those papers where I usually draw my storyboards. In the final stages of the series, I did not have any spare time to do that though. A side text. After the series finished, when taking an MRI, my shoulder tendons were severed. That was Kubo. Matsui then says, that's right, I wanted to ask you, when continuing a weekly series, didn't you ever become dazed midway through? Dazed? Have you never momentarily drawn like you were writing something automatically? Ah, I understand, I get it. Matsui then replies, a state in which you are somehow able to draw because your body has memorized how to draw. Given that there really is no flexibility to draw whilst thinking about various things like I did in my former days. Kubo sensei, how soon did you lose that flexibility? Probably around the final 3 years? Eh? Over 10 years since the serialization? By that time, my physical condition had deteriorated so much I had lost that flexibility. Matsui then says, for me, it came around the first 3 years. At the time, of both Nero Supernatural Detective as well as Assassination Classroom. As soon as 3 years had passed, I was already in a daze. Ha ha ha, Kubo says. Matsui then says, the 15 years that Bleach has accomplished is an extraordinary time, impossible to imagine. Therefore, I wonder if there is something in that time that only Kubo-sensei could see. You were able to keep that up as far as 10 years until your physical condition deteriorated? Kubo then replies, that's right, I was able to keep drawing as usual for as many as 10 years after the decline in my health. I was conscious about managing my physical condition. From then on, I was trying not to catch a cold. Matsui then states, it's a peculiar manner of speaking, but when I was younger, there was a part of me that thought I was invincible. When I got sick one time, I lost confidence in that, thinking I was wrong. Kubo then says, I see. I'd even catch colds while I was still young. I would take medicine and then sleep for 6 hours to cure it. I thought my health became bad in the mornings. I felt like I'd get better in the evenings and do some work, but gradually that became ineffective. That's sad, isn't it? Matsui then says, the pressures of doing a weekly series is truly staggering. So that heavy pressures has replaced any sort of cold on me. Well, in my case, my series did not go as long as Kubo-sensei's. So thankfully, there hasn't been any substantial decline in my health. I am not confident about whether or not I can draw in the same way in a subsequent series. Kubo then says, it gradually gets worse. Is it an age-related thing? Kubo then replies, well, during a series, adrenaline rises to the surface and you no longer understand poor physical health. So I ended up getting colds when things like double issues happen. There was talk of such a thing in your last conversation. Kubo then says, this time, when this lengthy series ended, my health became worse as expected. What happened? Kubo then replies, it felt like everything until now came at once. Matsui then says, ha ha ha. Kubo then replies, especially amongst that, I was always thinking that my shoulder hurts, and so even after several months, it did not get better in the slightest. Kubo then says, when taking an MRI, my shoulder tendons were severed. Huh? Kubo then says, I have a habit of leaning my body weight on my left shoulder whilst drawing. It seems that happened when my shoulder took that load. I was told that there was a partial fracture. Matsui then says, you mean you didn't realize what it was? Kubo then says, it became awfully painful the next day after making the manuscripts for the last chapter. Amazing. Matsui then says, indeed, that's amazing. Kubo replies, is it really? Matsui then says, well, yes, that's not normal at all. Hearing that puts me to shame. I wonder if you did the manuscript thinking, I'm going as far as to give up my whole body and soul for this, as he laughs. Kubo then said, not at all. The more Kubo-sensei doesn't understand pain, the more he says, I'll draw something I want to draw, huh? Kubo then says, going back to the original conversation, I see. Let's get back on track, he says as he laughs. Matsui then says, I think a series won't even last a year unless there is fun. Kubo then says, that's right, it can't. So guys, so far, that is part 1 of the Jump GIGA 2017 interview between Tite Kubo and Yusui Matsui, the creators of Bleach and Assassination Classroom. Again, guys, this is only part 1 of the interview for the Jump GIGA 2017. There will be more stuff to cover as the days go on. We're still waiting for more translations to be done. Please be aware that it takes time. Stop asking me. It's kind of annoying. There will be more content, so just wait and see what happens. The interview time greatly exceeded my expectations, guys. It went for over 2 hours. We have confirmation here. 2 hours of this interview. We have a good chunk of it here, and we're waiting on part 2 to be translated, so please be patient. That's coming soon. We're going to have a lot more ground to cover between Tite Kubo and Yusui Matsui, the creators of Bleach and Assassination Classroom. If you've liked anything I've had to say, leave it in the comments below. I'm a little under the weather. I apologize. I'm not feeling that great right now. But I will see you guys in the next Bleach video. And also a big thanks to Miss Stormcaller on Tumblr for leaking this information online. Thank you very much. I don't know if she translated it, but thank you very much for this information. It is absolutely mind-blowing to learn these things about Kubo and what he went through during the process of the Bleach manga. We are going to learn more as we go. So please be sure to subscribe if you haven't already done so. And I will see you guys in the next Bleach video. Peace out.